Oh, hello. Standard is broken. The new super fast rotation is, and has been since it was first announced, a mistake of significant proportions. To create an environment in which Standard is always rotating throughout the year, where every other set brings about the rotation of an entire block is, to quote a pair of prophetic cards from Kaladesh, a method in which we live fast and then die young. And Standard attendance did indeed die young. After all, why buy into a deck when it is just going to rotate out after the next set? Even if the archetype survives, chances are strong that many, if not most, of your deck's cards will be lost in the rotation. It's like having a giant expiration date on your deck, and that expiration date is just a few months away. Why spend hundreds of dollars to get weeks of play? And those were the first few paragraphs of a script that I've been working on for quite some time, one many pages long, and no joke, I was just a day or so away from filming a script that was highly critical of Wizards of the Coast and essentially attributed players' disinterest in Standard, many failures and problems with Standard, to this new, faster rotation, which I felt was the biggest mistake that Wizards of the Coast has made as far as the Standard format is concerned. Apparently, Wizards of the Coast feels the same way because today, a short time ago, amazingly, impossibly, Wizards decided to hit Control-Z and undo their terrible decision to speed up Standard rotation. That's right. We are going back to the way it was. They are wiping it clean. They are turning back the tape. Standard now rotates only once per year, and you get 2 full years of play about with each set. So much for that script. We're going back to the way it was. Hooray to Wizards of the Coast for admitting their mistake, and quickly this time, too. Blah 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 blah. One of the most difficult things to do in this life is to admit when you were wrong. We just hate to acknowledge our own mistakes, don't we? Well, this change to Standard rotation, or I should say, this change back, is, in a sense, Wizards of the Coast admitting their mistake and doing the right thing to make things right. Standard will now rotate with the release of the full set once per year. There will still be a 2-set block structure. What will rotate out are the 2 oldest blocks. This is fantastic. It means, for example, that Kaladesh, which, by the way, is the true successor to original Innistrad, sorry, Shadows, but it's true, Kaladesh is an extraordinary set. It's the one that will be remembered years from now as one of the best sets in both limited and constructed, a masterpiece of its time. It means that Kaladesh will be around for us to build from and play with in Standard for the next 2 years. What a great time to start building in Standard. Prices are coming down, and Standard is now rotating like it once did, less frequently. There are many reasons why Magic the Gathering is such a great game, and one of the important ones, is that we as players can create a deck with which we have a deep and personal bond. Our decks, the choices of everything from our cards to our colors, reflects us. That's why so many people, so many players have a deck of love, which is not always the absolute best deck in a format, but one that they play with because of the connection they have with it. But with Standard rotating so quickly, who could create that connection? In today, gone tomorrow. With rotation always a set or 2 away, why would you ever want to begin constructing, playtesting, refining, experimenting, and yes, buying into a Standard deck, just to have it rotate out in the blink of an eye? That is why this undo is the best things Wizards could do. Remember my tech on the mean green electric pummeling machine, a $20 standard budget deck that turned out to be on the right track, by the way, and now several red-green versions are performing amazingly well in standard. People who built that original budget mono-green version can now, if they wish, evolve into the red-green build or experiment with new color splashes. Months from now, sets from now, if they love this deck, they can still play it. They can experiment with new cards from the new sets, try and make the old cards from Kaladesh still work in the new standard. They can keep the deck that they love and play this game how they want to play it. Not necessarily how Wizards wants you to play it, which is buy a bunch of packs, throw them away, buy a bunch more packs, throw them away. We're always in pre-release, we're always in spoiler season. Yeah. One rotation once a year does make a big difference. One of the biggest fallacies that we must wean ourselves from is that rotation is needed to sell packs. No, a thriving play environment is what sells packs. New sets coming out bring with them new cards for old decks, and new decks with new cards. This is what sells packs, not forcing players to have to abandon their cards. One of my biggest concerns about Wizards of the Coast as a company, possibly my biggest concern about them, has been its difficulty in reacting quickly, dynamically, and significantly to problems. You have to understand, by the way, that in order to make Magic the Gathering as extraordinary a game as it is, Wizards of the Coast works years in advance, making sure each and every card, every line of text interacts perfectly in an incredibly complex ecosystem. Just think about that, because it's extraordinary. Kaladesh, for example, was complete years ago. Today, at Wizards of the Coast, they are working on a set that won't come out for years, but they're putting in the work today. Not on Amonkhet, that's done. They're working on something years in the future. This does seem to have the adverse effect of making it so they can't always react quickly to unexpected problems. Wizards of the Coast can often seem, from the casual player perspective, as being sluggish to react, slow or sometimes even impossible to make changes on the fly. Sometimes it feels like we are on the Titanic and we see the iceberg ahead, know we are going to hit it, and yet we just can't seem to steer away in time. Or at least Wizards of the Coast can't. We're all yelling at them, steer, steer, left, no right! And that, more than anything, is what excites me about this change back to standard rotation. Wizards of the Coast thought the original change to a faster rotation would be great business, and after just one of those new rotations, it turned out dramatically not to be. It could have potentially been years before they were able to course correct, but they responded quickly and dynamically, and damn if that doesn't give me hope. So take a bow, whoever is responsible for this at the company. Whatever person or persons made this happen, whatever person or persons identified the problem and implemented this solution, congratulations, you have just saved the standard format. And if that person or person's bosses happen to be watching this, give them a raise. If I ever meet them, first round of drinks are on me.